Welcome to Bullion Bulletin once again in the second Asia Pacific Precious Metals Conference. With me now Mr. Ounesh Reebye. He is the Vice President Streaming Operations and Metal Sales for Wheaton Precious Metals International Limited. Welcome to Bullion Bulletin, sir.
Thank you so much.
And it's my pleasure to talk to someone who is into the streaming business for the first time. I definitely spoke earlier, but it was in a different condition and over emails and. So my first question, as a gold streaming company, I just wanted to know how does it work for a company? What kind of due diligence you do before investing in a certain mine? It's gold, so I will talk about. I will be interested to know about the gold mining, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, streaming is a fairly new concept. It's been a very attractive way for miners to raise capital. It does provide an alternative for miners to be able to deploy capital in a way where, they're not diluting their shareholder base and they're not having to go to the debt capital markets, which can be quite expensive and limiting in terms of whether the size of the mining company is able to access that. It does provide the mines optionality in being able to monetize their byproduct metal. Streams are typically on assets where we are extracting value on their byproduct metal and not impacting their primary metal. So in our space, the streams have been structured so that miners who are looking to optimize either further mine development, exploration, or deployment of capital expenditures, they've been able to use the streams to achieve that without diluting or negatively impacting their position. Some of the miners have used streams to fix their balance sheets, so it's been very interesting to see the evolution of this space. I think in the last few years, with the commodity cycle turning, miners have opted to using streaming as a way to fix and optimize their overall portfolio. The way the streams work is we typically partner up with large-scale miners, mining companies that have a sound management team and quality assets. Most of the streams that we have in our portfolio end up being on the lower end of the cost curve. You want to be able to partner up with mining companies that are able to weather different cycles within, especially base metal prices as well as precious metal prices. The stream tends to be very effective where the miner is predominantly a base metal miner, because if they're mining copper, lead, zinc, or nickel, especially copper, you get quite a bit of byproduct gold from the assets. And if you're mining, lead and zinc assets, you get quite a bit of silver from them. So it's been a good way for those operators to, achieve and obtain value on a non-core metal that otherwise they wouldn't have had the same value. So it's been a great, good 13, 14 years now.
So when a gold mining company look for someone of a gold who can invest in a gold streaming basis, so basically they look for the money for as a working capital finance, or they wanted to sell some part temporarily to the streaming company.
So how
it works? Certainly they are not paying any interest back.
Right. So it varies, right? So the mining company may be in a situation where they're looking at doing a mine expansion, and the capital expenditure required to, expand the mine may not be available, or they may be in a position where they're looking at a development asset and they aren't able to access capital from either a debt issuance or raise the capital through equity issuance. So typically what happens in that scenario, they would reach out to a streaming company like ourselves, and we will assess the asset to be able to form at least an idea as to what is the overall life of that mine, but also assess what is the overall IOV return that this will have to our portfolio. IOV is an indication of value. It has to be a win-win situation. So if the asset that we are putting a stream on represents approximately 20% of their revenue line, we have to be careful in terms of how you deploy that capital. Most of our streams end up being approximately 2% of the company's revenue line. So if it's a base metal company that's looking to stream their byproduct gold, as this example you gave us, it would be in a way that we would deploy that capital so that we can actually facilitate the development of the mine, or it could be the development of a infrastructure for them to mine expansion. Another way we've seen streams being used is for continued exploration. They may have depleted the exploration budget, so they would actually strap on a stream to start exploring so that they can increase their reserve base again. Especially when the commodity life cycle goes down, where if the operator is only mining zones that can be profitable at a certain commodity price. We've seen in this cycle that the exploration budgets have been cut. Now that metal prices are starting to rise again, that exploration budget needs to be there in order for them to replenish the reserves. Streams in that fashion can also help achieve that.
So what I observed that every mining companies that you have invested, they are all located in the West, the US and the entire American region. So you have been in Singapore, you are now in Singapore, so are you looking to invest or looking for some mines in this area?
Well, I think it's a great venue. This is definitely, I have to thank the SBMA for the invitation to talk about streaming. I think as I'm based in the Wheaton Precious Cayman office, where we oversee the streaming operations and the precious metal sales. I think as a company, the corporate development arm based in Vancouver have been very actively looking, not just in the Americas, but globally. We do look at assets that are structured in a way that would make it favorable to have a stream on. Definitely Asia's been of interest to us, and we continue to see and try to understand the landscape here. We're not limited to North America or Latin America per se, but if it's the right asset, if it's got the right mine and the right operator with a strong management, certainly the streaming concept is a good way for these operators to have another avenue to raise capital. So definitely.
So my last question: when you are, when you are procuring that precious metals from that streamed mine, so how you distribute, how you sell it back to the markets, how you distribute the sale? Yeah.
So most of the gold and silver comes from byproduct. So it's essentially concentrate that's being shipped to smelters, and within the concentrate there's a fixed payable amount of gold and silver, which is essentially paid to us in the form of unallocated gold credits to our bullion accounts in London, unallocated silver accounts to local London accounts again. That metal itself is sold directly to the bullion banks, where we would then monetize it and recognize the revenue immediately. The way the streams work is when we do a capital injection into an asset, we would do an early payment. Let's say if it's a mine that an operator that's looking to build a mine, it may be structured where we do an initial payment of $300 million, and in exchange for that, we would get the ability to buy at a fixed cost, fixed price, gold and silver. Let's say silver at $4 and gold at $400. Immediately, we would then sell those ounces to the market at current spot prices, and that's how we monetize and use the cash to reinvest into our business and to reinvest into either new streams or pay down our debt.
So while doing these transactions, nowadays this OECD responsible jewelry responsible jewelry guideline, or the APPMC guideline, or the Dodd-Frank Act that is implemented.
Right.
So these regulations nowadays you have to take care. So when you are sourcing that, you make sure that the mines actually follow this due diligence.
Yeah, absolutely. We partner up with publicly listed mining companies. These are large operators who have formalized mining standards, so they are in adherence to international standards to be able to operate in the jurisdictions and the regions of the world where they have their assets. By virtue of being a publicly listed company, a lot of these producers have a social responsibility and a social license to ensuring that their operations are meeting the industry and international standards. So when it comes to responsible sourcing, absolutely, we are partnered up with operators that have, no human rights abuse, making sure there's no child labor. We have invested an investment in the communities in the regions of the world where these mines are based. We also have a community partnership relationship with the mining operators, where we help support and fund the development of infrastructure to help the communities, whether it's vocational schools, training programs, and also working to help support the local communities with farming and other aspects that can help facilitate and help the regions where these operators are based. Absolutely.
How have you enjoyed the conference?
I think it's a really great conference. It's my first time attending the Asia Pacific conference, and I think the second year to have this type of attendance is impressive, and certainly a great different perspective from the North American view of what we typically see. And I think it's great to see this attendance, and wish it continued success, and hopefully next year's an even a bigger conference. Yeah.
Thank you very much.